Hare Krishna. So we'll recite the verses, key verses from Canto 11 first. Then we'll continue our discussion from the 11th Canto. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parsadam Yagne Sankirtana Praye Yajjantihi Sumedasaha Dheyam Sada Paribhavagnam Abhistadoham Tirtaspadam Shiva Virinchi Nutam Sharanyam Vrityatiham Pranatapala Bhavabdipotam Vande Mahapurushate Charanaravindam Tvaktva Sudustya Jasurepshataraja Lakshmim Dharmistya Arya Vachasadya Ragad Aranyam Maya Mrigam Daitayepsita Anvadavat Vande Mahapurushate Charanaravindam Kalim Sabhajayanti Arya Gunagya Sarabhagina Yatra Sankirtane Neva Sarvasvartho Abhilabhyate Nahi Yata Paramo Labho Dehinam Brahmyatamiha Yato Vindeta Paramam Santim Nasyati Samshritihi Devasi Bhuttaptaninam Pitrinam Nakin Karonayam Rinicharajan Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parihritya Kartam Swapadamulam Bhajata Priyasya Jaktanya Bhavasya Hari Paresa Vikarma Yachot Patitam Katanchit Dhunoti Sarvam Hridisani Vista Vairenayam Nipataya Sishupala Pondra Salvadayo Gati Vilasa Vilokanadye Jayanta Akrita Dhiya Sayana Sanado Tat Samyam Apur Anurakta Dhiyam Punakim Vibhyastavam Ritakatoda Bahastri Lokya Pada Vaneja Sarita Samalani Hantum Anushravam Shrutibir Angrijam Anga Sanges Tirtha Dvayam Suchisadasta Upas Prisanti Tada Vikreditam Krishna Nirnam Parama Mangalam Kama Piyusam Asajya Tyajanti Anyas Priham Janaha Tvayopa Bhukta Shraganda Vaso Alankara Charchitaha Uchista Bojinu Dasas Tava Mayam Jayemahi Tasmad Bhavantam Anavajyam Anantaparam Sarvagya Ishvaram Akunta Vikunta Disyam Nirvinadir Ahamuhe Brijina Bitapto Narayanam Narasakam Sharanam Prapadye Yaprapya Manusam Lokam Mukti Dwaram Apavritam Grihe Sukhaga Vatsaktas Tam Arudha Chutam Bidu Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Jnana Timrandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshulmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we'll continue our discussion from the 11th Canto, chapter 13 and verse 38. So we'll be reading from Canto 11, chapter 13, verse 38. Last week we were hearing from Ghanshyam Prabhu. We started discussing this chapter, the title, The Hamsa Avatar Answers Questions. So we saw how last week Ghanshyam Prabhu was going through Uddhava. He was asking Krishna this question, that can you please tell us more about this Sankhya Yoga that you spoke to the four Kumars, and when did you speak it to them, how did you speak it to them? So then Krishna, he narrates this whole incident, how once upon a time the four Kumars, they approached their father, Lord Brahma, and they put forward this question towards Brahma, that we see that the mind naturally is going after sense objects, and at the same time we also see the reverse or the converse, which is that the sense objects are also, from their side, are also going into our mind in the form of desires. So on one side, the mind is naturally going towards sense objects. On the other side, the sense objects are also entering into the mind in the form of desires. So how to break up this tight knot between the mind and sense objects? And we're hearing how when Brahma, he hears this question, he's bewildered, he's perplexed, and he doesn't know how to answer this question. And the Bhagavatam explains that Brahma, being so much engrossed in the process of creation, like Ghanshyam Prabhu is giving the example, sometimes we'll be so much involved, our mind and sense will be so much involved in some service, and someone randomly comes and asks this question. Because we're not in a proper state of mind, we can't answer that question. We say, Prabhu, not now. After we do the service, you can ask. Now my mind is not in a proper state, come back to me later. So in the same way, Brahma, he's preoccupied with the whole process of creation, so he's unable to answer. So what does Brahma do? Brahma, he closes his eyes and he goes into meditation, and he meditates upon the Supreme Lord, asking for the solution or the answer to this question. And Ghanshyam Prabhu, he was giving one real life example of Radha Maharaj, how he also went through this. One time he was with some bankers giving a talk, and then someone asked him a question, Radha Maharaj. Then again he explains, he does the same thing. He closes his eyes and he offers a prayer to Krishna, and then Krishna, he gives him the answer. So Prabhu was mentioning that many times in life we'll come across situations in life when we don't know what to do, we're bewildered. At that time we just come and take shelter of the Lordship, Shri Radha Gopinath, take shelter of the holy name, take shelter of Bhagavatam, and Krishna will reveal the answer to us. So in this way, as Brahma was meditating on Krishna, asking him for help for the answer to his question, suddenly out of nowhere comes an avatar or incarnation of the Lord called the Hamsa avatar. So Krishna, he comes in the form of a Hamsa or a swan, and everyone's surprised. The four Kumaras are immediately surprised. Here they are asking a question, and their father, he doesn't know how to answer. He closes his eyes, and suddenly a swan comes out of nowhere, a very beautiful swan. And then so naturally the four Kumaras, they inquire that, who are you? Like this they asked the swan. And we saw that Hamsa avatar, Krishna, he first plays with him. He is saying that if by asking who you are, you're referring to my soul, and if you think that all souls are the same, we're all the same, we're all one, then your question is pointless, because we're all one, we're all the same identity, we're all the Supreme Brahman. So what is the use of this asking this question, who are you? Or if by asking this question, who are you, you're referring to the material body, then this material body is composed of 5 material ingredients: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So instead of asking who you are, you should ask who are you 5, because this body is made out of 5 elements. So in this way, Hamsa avatar, he plays with them initially, and then he starts answering their question. And that brings us to this verse, so Canto 11, Chapter 13, text number 38. So there's only 5 verses left in this chapter, and in these 5 verses, Krishna, he'll summarize whatever is talked about. It's like the concluding words of the chapter. Basically, the answer to that question of, okay, the mind is going to sense objects, the sense objects are coming to the mind, how do we break this up? Krishna, in the course, as the Hamsa avatar, in the course of his explanation, he explained that there's 3 levels of consciousness, which we saw last week. Ghanshyam Prabhu was going through it. There's the wakeful state, then there's the dreaming or sleeping state, and then there is deep sleep, when one goes completely into ignorance. But then in another verse, Krishna says, as Hamsa avatar, that beyond these 3 states of existence, there is a 4th stage of consciousness. And that 4th stage of consciousness is Krishna consciousness, when the consciousness is completely absorbed in the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And this way, Hamsa avatar explains, only when one comes to the 4th stage of consciousness, Krishna consciousness, can one break this tight bond between the sense objects and the mind. Otherwise, it's impossible. Similar to the verse in Bhava Gita, Devihi esa gunamai, mama maya durachaya, mameva ya prapajante, maya metam tarantante. So in this way, Krishna, he explains this. And now in these last 5 verses, he will summarize his teachings to the 4 Kumaras. So this is Canto 11, Chapter 13, text number 38. My dear Brahmana, I have now explained to you the confidential knowledge of Sankhya, by which one philosophically distinguishes matter from spirit, and of Astanga Yoga, by which one links up with the Supreme. Please understand that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and that I have appeared before you, desiring to explain your actual religious duties. So now, finally, after all these verses, this is text 38, after maybe 15, 20 verses, finally he's revealing his identity. Till this verse, he hasn't told them who actually he is. Initially the question was, who are you, sir? That's the first question the Kumars asked. Vishnu or Hamsavatar, he just dodges that question, ignores it and continues with talking. Now finally, he's revealing. Actually, I am the Supreme Personality Godhead in this swan form. And why is he finally revealing this? The Acharyas, they explain in the purport, if we read, they explain that Vishnu or Hamsavatar, he's thinking that to help the four Kumars take whatever I've given them more seriously, I need to reveal my identity. If they understand that I'm the same Supreme Personality Godhead speaking to them, then they'll take all this knowledge more seriously. Just like, so if someone in class, they quote, okay, I read in Prabhupada's book, Bhagavatam, when Prabhupada was saying like this in one purport, or Prabhupada was saying like this in one lecture. Then everyone's attention immediately go, oh, Prabhupada is saying, then it has to be true. Prabhupada is pure devotee of Lord, whatever Prabhupada said, it has to be right. So in this way, if we say a quote by some supreme or senior personality, then immediately everyone's attention goes to that. Okay, it's coming from such a great authority, it has to be true. So in this way, Krishna is thinking, to help the four Kumaras take more seriously what I've been speaking, I need to reveal my identity. I need to reveal to them that I'm actually the Supreme Personality Godhead. Then they'll take it very seriously. Oh, okay, so this is the Supreme Personality Godhead. You know, whatever he's said that it has to be right, I have to take it more seriously. So now finally he's revealing his identity to the original question. And here it's explained that I have explained to you the confidential knowledge of Sankhya and also Astanga Yoga. So if you go to the previous verse, you'll see how Sankhya philosophy is like philosophically analyzing material world. In the previous verses, we heard last week from Ghanshyam Prabhu, about the nature of the intelligence, the nature of false ego, the nature of the mind. So this is all Sankhya philosophy. We are analytically analyzing the different ingredients of material creation. And Krishna is saying, I've also spoken to you of Astanga Yoga. So how has Krishna spoken about Astanga Yoga? We were hearing last week that one of there's the Astanga Yoga is the eightfold process of yoga. There's Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, and the fifth stage is Pratyahara. So Pratyahara is when one completely rejects material sense gratification and then one starts focusing within. And that's what Krishna was also telling the four Kumaras, that one needs to disassociate his mind from sense objects and focus within, on me, and in this way take shelter of me. So in this way, Krishna, he touched on Sankhya and Astanga Yoga, but in line with Bhakti Yoga. Okay, we'll go to the next text 39. O best of the Brahmanas, please know that I am the supreme shelter of the yoga system, analytical philosophy, virtuous action, truthful religious principles, power, beauty, fame, and self-control. So in the purport, Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur, he explains that after hearing all this amazing wisdom from Hamsavatar, the four Kumars, they must have been astonished by hearing such amazing philosophy. So Vishnu, to re-emphasize, he's explaining that don't be so astonished. By the way, I am Vishnu himself, and I am the source of yoga system. I am the source of analytical philosophy. I am the source of virtual action. I am the source of truthful religious principles. So therefore, naturally, I would speak such amazing philosophy because I am the original founder of Sankhya philosophy. I am the original founder of the yoga system. So therefore, you don't need to be so astonished. This is natural. I am the original creator of these yoga systems, so therefore I'm able to explain it so nicely. So in this way, Vishnu, he further describes his glories to the four Kumaras on text 39. So we'll go to the next verse, text number 40. All superior transcendental qualities, such as being beyond the modes of material nature, detached, the well-wisher, the most dear, the supersoul, equally situated everywhere, and free from material entanglement. All such qualities, free from the transformations of material qualities, find their shelter and worshipable object in me. So in the purport, the Acharyas, they're explaining that in the previous verse, Krishna was saying, okay, I am the original founder of the yoga system, I'm the original founder of Sankhya, so therefore I'm able to speak such wonderful wisdom. At this point, when the four Kumars, they hear this, in their mind they could be thinking, this person, he seems a bit proud, he seems puffed up, saying, oh, I am the source of this, I am the source of that, everything is coming from me. So the four Kumars might have this doubt in their mind, that although he's saying he's Vishnu and he seems to be boasting, he seems to be very proud of his qualities and his abilities. So to dissipate this doubt of the four Kumars, or this misunderstanding that Krishna actually has material pride, Krishna is speaking this verse. So I'll read the verse again. all superior transcendental qualities such as being beyond the modes of material nature. So being overcome by pride, false ego, these are all qualities of someone who is overcome by the three modes of material nature. Only someone who has a material body, who is influenced by Durga Devi, who is influenced by the mode of passion, as we hear in Bhagavad Gita, one of the symptoms of mode of passion is one wants to, pride is there, that's one of the symptoms. So in this way Krishna explains that, don't think I'm materially overcome by pride and that's why I'm boasting like this. I'm simply speaking this for your own benefit. And Krishna is justifying by speaking this verse that all superior qualities such as being beyond the three modes of material nature, being detached, being the well-wisher, being equally situated, these all are situated in me. And all such qualities, free from transformations of material qualities, find their shelter and worshipable object in me. So in this way, Krishna, he establishes this fact that I'm not an ordinary person, I'm the Supreme Lord. I don't have a material body, so because I don't have a material body, I can't be influenced by the three modes. And because I can't be influenced by the three modes, I can't be influenced by material pride. So me speaking all these words are simply for your own benefit. To help you understand this message better, I am speaking such words. So in this way, Vishnu, he clarifies his position. And all these words, Vishnu, he is speaking simply for the benefit of the four Kumaras, so they can understand him better. And they can also, we can see from these verses how sensitive Vishnu is. He understands exactly what might be going on in the mind of his devotees, and he acts according to that to help his devotees progress further towards his lotus feet. If someone has some doubts about Supreme Lord, that okay, Krishna might be proud or Krishna might have this anatta, then that would stop the progress of that devotee coming closer to Krishna, because it will be seva prad. Just like if we judge another Vaishnava, that's like a mental offense against a Vaishnava. Similarly in our mind, if we think something bad about Krishna, that oh, Krishna is proud, like in this instance, four Kumaras might be thinking like that, then that's seva prad, that's offense against the Supreme Lord. So Krishna, he's so sensitive, he's going so much to detail to stop the four Kumaras from committing the seva prad. He's again clarifying the situation to protect the four Kumaras, to protect their bhakti towards them. We'll go next text, text 41. Lord Krishna continued, my dear Uddhava. So now the whole conversation between Hamsavatar and the four Kumaras is finished, and now we're going back to Krishna talking to Uddhava. So Lord Krishna continued, my dear Uddhava, thus all of the doubts of the sages headed by Sonaka were destroyed by my words. Fully worshipping me with transcendental love and devotion, they chanted my glories with excellent hymns. Text 42. The greatest of sages, headed by Sonaka Rishi, thus perfectly worshipped and glorified me. And as Lord Brahma looked on, I returned to my abode. Thus end the purports of 13th chapter of 11th canto, titled The Hamsavatar Answers the Questions of the Sons of Brahma. So that takes us to the next chapter, chapter 14, which is titled Lord Krishna Explains the Yoga System to Sri Uddhava. Okay, so we'll read the first text, text 1 of chapter 14 of 11th canto. Sri Uddhava said, my dear Krishna, the learned sages who explain Vedic literature recommend various processes for perfecting one's life. Considering these varieties of viewpoint, my Lord, please tell me whether all these processes are equally important or whether one of them is supreme. So in the previous chapter we were hearing how Hamsavatar, in the course of answering the question of the four Kumaras, he touches a bit on Sankhya philosophy and he touches a bit on philosophy of the Ashtanga yoga system. So after hearing all these different processes, now Uddhava is asking this question. Out of all of these different paths of self-realization, all these different forms of worship, which path is the best? Are they all the same? Are they all equal? Or is there one which is more supreme? And if there is one which is superior to all the other paths, please tell me which path that is. So what is the purpose of Uddhava asking this question? The Acharyas explained that Uddhava, being a devotee of the Lord, he wants Krishna himself to state how bhakti is the topmost, how pure loving devotion to lotus feet of Radha Gopinath is the topmost path. And because he wants to establish the superiority of bhakti, Uddhava, he's asking this question. Same thing we'll see in the first canto of Bhagavatam, when Maharaj Parikshit, he's been cursed to die in 7 days. And when Sukadev Goswami comes, he asks Sukadev Goswami, what is the duty of one who is just about to die? And the Acharyas explain, Prabhupada explains that actually Maharaj Parikshit, he's a Nitya Siddha devotee of the Lord, he's a eternal liberated devotee of the Lord. He already knows what is the supreme duty of everyone at all times, place, circumstances. He knows what is the duty of one at time of life, at the time of death. It's just simply to engage in bhakti. So why is Maharaj Parikshit asking these questions? The Acharyas explain. In that assembly, if you remember, when Maharaj Parikshit is fasting on the bank of Ganga, all great personalities from all over the universe, they assemble. So there's great sages, rishis, kings, and different personalities from all around the universe. They all come and assemble, understanding that something great is about to take place, understanding that now Sukadeva Goswami come and speak Bhagavatam. Now in that assembly, not everyone were devotees. And when Maharaj Parikshit, he initially asked this question, before Sukadeva Goswami came, Maharaj Parikshit, he asked the same question to the sages assembled there. And the other personalities assembled there. But it's explained that not all of them were giving bhakti as the answer. They were all of different opinions, they were all of different levels of consciousness, so they couldn't come to an agreement. Some were saying, okay, you should follow the path of jnana. Some were saying, you should do this sacrifice, or you should do that sacrifice. Some were saying, you should do this ritual. So different sages, different rishis were giving different opinions to Maharaj Parikshit. And there wasn't a unanimous opinion that bhakti is the topmost. So Maharaj Parikshit, to establish in this great assembly, once and for all, that bhakti is the topmost, Maharaj Parikshit, he asked this question. So that in front of all of these great personalities, eternally it can be established that bhakti yoga is the topmost. Same attitude or mood we'll see with Maharaj Yudhishthira in Krishna book. If you remember that Maharaj Yudhishthira in Mahabharata, he does the Rajasuya sacrifice. And what is the purpose? Maharaj Yudhishthira does the Rajasuya sacrifice. Prabhupada explains in Krishna book that the only reason Maharaj Yudhishthira was doing the Rajasuya sacrifice was simply to glorify Krishna. How? In the Rajasuya sacrifice, at the start, there is this ceremony where a certain person from the assembly is selected who is the greatest out of everyone else and who is offered the first initial worship and puja. So Maharaj Yudhishthira, he wanted that at the start of Rajasuya sacrifice, in front of all the great kings and leaders from all over the world and the universe, Krishna's position as the topmost, as the most supreme personality will be established, so that the whole universe will understand that Krishna is the topmost. So again we see this desire of the devotee of the Lord. The devotee of the Lord, he always wants to bring more and more attention to Krishna. He wants to glorify Krishna more and more, and he wants to glorify the pure path of bhakti more and more. Another example in CC is that of Nityananda Prabhu. Why was Nityananda Prabhu running after Jagai and Madai, trying to deliver them? Again, same thing we hear, that the only reason Nityananda Prabhu wanted to deliver them, he was thinking in his mind that these two fallen souls, Jagai and Madai, they're the most sinful and there's the most fallen. If I somehow or other deliver them, me being the servant of Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu's glories will be even more, expanded. Everyone all around the universe, they'll see, just look what Mahaprabhu's servant has done. This servant of Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, by the potency of Mahaprabhu, he's been able to deliver the most sinful, most degraded persons of all time, Jagai and Madai. So this was the consciousness of Nityananda Prabhu when he was going to do his service. That, okay, if I somehow or other pull this off, so just like we're going on different preaching missions, we might be sent by authorities, okay, you go to this suburb, start a bhakti rickshaw here, or you go to this town, distribute books here, or you go to this place, start a Namahatta there. So in the same way, Nityananda Prabhu, he was given a mission. And Nityananda Prabhu, he is exemplifying the ideal consciousness of a preacher, the ideal consciousness of a book distributor, which is to glorify the Supreme Lord, which is to expand the glories of the Lord. So Nityananda Prabhu, this was his mood thinking. If I somehow or other make these two fallen souls into devotees, then Mahaprabhu's glories will be extended even more. And this is the mood or consciousness which we should constantly be carrying, no matter whichever service we're doing. Just like when it comes to deity worship, is explained by devotees, by Prabhupada, that the mood in which we should dress the deities is, let me dress Radha Gopinath, or let me dress Jagannath or Gauranitai so nicely and wonderfully, with nice garlands, with nice turban, that they become even more attractive. So that when devotees see, they are just completely astonished and everyone's attention will just simply go towards them. Similarly, when we're distributing books, we should distribute with that consciousness. Let me distribute more and more books so people will find out more and more about the glories of Krishna, about the glories of Mahaprabhu, about the glories of Srila Prabhupada. So in this way we can see from the examples of Parikshit, Yudhishthira, Nityananda Prabhu, Uddhava, this ideal mood of a devotee of the Lord. Same thing with giving class, a Bhagavatam class, Ghanshyam Prabhu, he was sharing one example of Niranjan Maharaj, about how Maharaj explains, before he gives any class, Maharaj always offers a short prayer to Krishna that, please make me an instrument of your compassion, please empower me, so that whatever I speak from the Shastra will inspire other devotees to take shelter of your lotus feet. So this is the mood in which, any speaker of Bhagavatam or Shastra speaks. His mood of speaking is such that, let me speak something that will inspire the devotees to take shelter of Radha Gopinath. So in that mood he speaks. In that mood he speaks glorifying the qualities of the holy name. So who is hearing the Bhagavatam class, they'll be inspired to take shelter of the holy name. In that mood he glows and glorifies the lotus feet of Krishna or the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. So then whoever is hearing the class of Bhagavatam, they'll be inspired to come take darshan, they'll be inspired to offer praise to Gauranitai, they'll be inspired to offer praise to Krishna. So in this way, Ghanshyam Prabhu is mentioning, same thing, that when we give class, also that same mood needs to be there, that we want to assist devotees in direct, or help devotees direct their consciousness more and more towards the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. And that's the mood in which Uddhava is asking this question. Uddhava wants Krishna to establish once and for all that bhakti is the topmost, so that's why he's asking, okay, out of all these parts, which is the topmost? Okay, so that's the question, and the rest of this chapter, Krishna, he'll answer this question, and Krishna will establish bhakti as the topmost form of devotional service. Okay, we'll go to text number 2. My dear Lord, you have already explained the process of unalloyed devotional service, by which a devotee removes all material association from his life, enabling him to fix his mind on you. Text number 3. So now Krishna will respond to Uddhava's question. The Supreme Personality Godhead said, by the influence of time, the transcendental sound of Vedic knowledge was lost at the time of annihilation. Therefore, when the subsequent creation took place, I spoke the Vedic knowledge to Brahma, because I myself am the religious principles enunciated in the Vedas. So similar verse we'll see in Bhagavad Gita also, evam param prapaptam imam rajasya vidu sakalena mata yoga nasta parantapa. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says the same thing to Arjuna, that this message is received through distinct succession, but over the course of time, it was gone, and therefore I am now speaking this knowledge to you again. So in this way, Ghanshyam Prabhu is saying that actually Uddhava Gita is just an expansion of Bhagavad Gita, and we'll see so many verses in Uddhava Gita, we'll find a similar verse in Bhagavad Gita. So this is a nice little mental exercise we can do, that when we're reading Uddhava Gita, we can try and, in our mind, connect it to some famous verse of Bhagavad Gita. So that's a nice exercise to do. Also, another thing we can appreciate, Ghanshyam Prabhu is sharing that about how amazingly Krishna has made Gita. Whatever is there in Uddhava Gita is summarized by Krishna in just 700 verses in Bhagavad Gita. When we're reading Uddhava Gita, there's like 2 big volumes, this big, and so many verses, and it seems so philosophical, and it seems so mind-blowing, like so much philosophy is so confusing. Like, that's the reason why Ghanshyam Prabhu, was explaining, he chose to speak on this, because devotees, when they think of Uddhava Gita, they feel very scared, because it's like so much philosophy, and they don't know where it's starting, where it's ending, what's the flow, it's just so confusing. So that in that mood, Ghanshyam Prabhu said he chose to speak on Uddhava Gita to help devotees understand this better. So when we see Uddhava Gita, it seems so complicated and so philosophical, but that same Uddhava Gita, Krishna has so nicely compacted into one small book, Bhagavad Gita, in just 700 verses. Whatever Krishna has spoken to Uddhava, Krishna is summarizing so nicely for fallen souls like you and me, so we can very easily understand better. So in this way we can also appreciate, as we read Uddhava Gita, we can appreciate Krishna's expertise in summarizing all this complicated philosophical knowledge in such easy slokas in Bhagavad Gita, making it very easy for us to understand. Okay, we'll go to text number 4. Lord Brahma spoke this Vedic knowledge to his eldest son, Manu, and the 7 great sages headed by Bhrigu Muni then accepted the same knowledge from Manu. So this verse again, it's very similar to the first verse of 4th chapter. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavanaham abhyavyam vivasvan manave pra manu riksha kave bravit. So just like in Gita, Krishna is saying, I first spoke to Sun God spoke it to his son, Manu, then Manu spoke it to his son. In the same way, Krishna is saying that in the previous verse we were saying that over the course of time this Vedic knowledge was lost, then at the time of annihilation was lost, then when creation started I spoke to Brahma, And now in this verse he is saying, then Brahma, he passed on to the Manus, they passed on to 7 sages, and then from then on, it was passed on to the different Manus. Okay, so we'll go to text 5 and 7. From the forefathers, headed by Bhrigu Muni and other sons of Brahma, appeared many children and descendants, who assumed different forms as demigods, demons, human beings, guyakas, siddhas, gandharvas, vidyadharas, charanas, kindevas, kinnaras, nagas, kimpurusas, and so on. All of the many universal species, along with their respective leaders, appeared with different natures and desires, generated from the 3 modes of mature nature. Therefore, because of the different characteristics of the living entities within the universe, there are a great many Vedic rituals, mantras, and rewards. Okay, so now Krishna is continuing that from the great sages and other sons of Brahma, other different descendants came, and Krishna is saying about all the other different species. There's like demigods, demons, human beings, guyakas, siddhas, gandharvas, vidyadharas, charanas, kindevas, kinnaras. And then Krishna is going on to explain that all of these different species of life, they all have different natures, they have different desires generated by the 3 modes of mature nature. And therefore, because of the different characteristics of these different living entities in the universe, there are many different Vedic rituals, mantras, and rewards. So in this way, Krishna, he answers this question, because Uddhava's question was that, okay, there's so many parts of self-realization. Out of all these parts, is there one which is topmost? And if so, which is the topmost part? So in this verse, Krishna is explaining the reason for which, why there's so many parts. Why can't there just be one part? Why can't Krishna just give bhakti alone? Why does Krishna have to give so many different parts and yoga systems? So in this way, this verse, Krishna is answering this question, that there's so many different living entities, they're all unique, they have their own different nature, they have their own different psychological conditioning, they have their own desires. So because not everyone can fully take to bhakti to satisfy the desires of different living entities, Krishna, out of compassion, he forms different Vedic rituals, processes, so everyone and anyone can somehow or other get connected to the Vedic wisdom and slowly, gradually progress. Even though one might not be able to go to a topmost platform bhakti, no problem. You engage in sense gratification, but you do it through this Vedic ritual or through this sacrifice, and slowly you can also be elevated to bhakti. So this is the mercy of Krishna. I'll read the first paragraph of this purport, because the disciples of Prabhupada, they give explanation about the meaning of some of these personalities, like Kindevas, Kinnaras, Kimpurusas. We'll come across these personalities in Bhagavatam, but we're not sure who exactly these personalities are. In this purport it's explained exactly who these persons are and how they got these names, like Kinnaras, Kimpurusas. So I'll read the purport. If one is curious why Vedic literatures recommend so many different methods of worship and advancement, the answer is given here. Bhrigu, Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, and Kratu are the 7 great Brahmana sages and forefathers of this universe. The Kindevas, okay, now the explanation comes. So there's one type of living entity called the Kindevas. The Kindevas are a race of human beings who are like the demigods, completely free from fatigue, sweat, and body odor. Seeing them, one may ask, Kim Deva, are they demigods? Okay, so these persons called Kim Devas, they are a certain type of human beings who look like demigods. So they're like human beings, but they resemble demigods, and they're free from sweat, fatigue, and bodily odor. And they get this name Kim Deva. By the word Kim means, it's like a question, and Deva means demigod. So because they look like demigods, and when people look at them, they think, are they demigods or are they something else? Because of that, they got this name, Kim Deva. So that's one type of living called the Kim Devas. We'll continue on with the purport. Actually, they are human beings living on another planet within the universe. So according to this, when we speak of all the different species of human species, according to this purport, not all of those human species are present on this planet. Some of the human species are present on other planets also. And then next is the Kinnaras. The Kinnaras are so called because they are Kinchin Naraha, or a little like human beings. The Kinnaras have either a human head or human body, but not both, combined with a non-human form. So Now coming to the second one called Kinara. Nara means human being, and combined with the word kin or kinchin, kinchin means a little like. So these persons, they look a little like human beings, so therefore they got this name Kinara, which means they look a little like Nara, or they look like a little like human beings. So Kinaras are those who either have a human head along with some animal body, or they have the other way around. They have maybe a human body with some animal head. So that's the Kinaras. Then there's the Kim Purushas. The Kim Purushas are so called because they resemble human beings and thus prompt the question, Kim Purusha? Are these human beings? So again, like the Kim Devas, Kim means like a question. So because these personalities Kim Purushas, they look like human beings, they're called Kim Purusha. Because when someone looks at them, they think, are they human beings or are they something else? So they got this name, Kim Purushas. Actually, they are a race of monkeys who are almost like human beings. So these Kim Purushas, they look like human beings, but they're not exactly like human beings. In their bodily feature, they resemble a bit like monkeys or like apes. And that's why, I'm not sure if Hanuman and the other Vanaras in Ramayana, they come under these species, but in Bhagavatam 5th canto, it's explained that we have Jambudvip, and Jambudvip has the 9 sections, Varshas, and we're in Bharat Varsha. Each Varsha has a predominating deity, and each Varsha has a particular great devotee of Lord who's worshipping that particular deity. For example, our Bharat Varsha, the predominant deity is Narayan Rishi, and the devotee of the Lord who's worshipping Narayan Rishi is given Narad Muni. So in the same way, above Bharat Varsha is Kim Purusha Varsha. So, and in Kim Purusha Varsha, it's explained that the predominant deity of Kim Purusha Varsha is Lord Ram. And the devotee who's worshipping or leading the devotional service of Lord Ram given in that Varsha is Hanuman. So I'm not sure if Hanuman and the other Vanaras, they also come under this category of Kim Purushas, they look like human beings, but their body resembles that of monkeys also. So there are a certain race of monkeys. So Hanuman, he's there in Kim Purusha Loka as the leading devotee worshipping Lord Ram. That's given in 5th canto. Okay, we'll continue our next verse, text number 8. Thus, due to the great variety of desires and natures among human beings, there are many different theistic philosophies of life, which are handed down through tradition, custom, and disciplic succession. There are other teachers who directly support atheistic viewpoints. So Krishna again is emphasizing that due to the different desires, natures of all these different personalities, there's different paths. And also Krishna is saying that along with these different paths which are there coming from the Vedas, there are also some atheistic viewpoints which are also taking root from the Shastras. And in the purport, Vishnunath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives one nice example. So I'll read the purport. Srila Vishnunath Chakravarti Thakur has given a most interesting example as follows. The water of the Ganges is always pure and very sweet. On the banks of that river, however, there are several types of poisonous trees whose roots drink up the Ganges water from the soil and use it to produce poisonous fruits. Similarly, those who are atheistic or demoniac utilize their association with Vedic knowledge to produce the poisonous fruits of atheistic or materialistic philosophy. So this is a very nice example Vishnunath Chakravarti Thakur is giving. He's given an example just like we have the bank of the Ganges, and the bank of the Ganges is supremely pure and the water is so sweet. But along the bank of the Ganges, along with beautiful flower trees and pious trees, there'll be some poisonous trees. And these poisonous trees, they'll take the nectarian water of the Ganges, they'll take the most purifying water of the Ganges, and they'll use it to get strength. And in return, what will it do? They'll produce fruits which are actually poisonous. They're taking something which is pure and sweet, but in return, they're producing something which is poisonous. So in the same way, Vishnunath Chakravarti Thakur, he's given an example. There are certain classes of philosophers, for example, Mayavadi philosophers, who use the Vedas to produce something which is actually poisonous. The Vedas are there to help us, take us towards Krishna, but the Mayavadis, they'll misinterpret the Vedas, they'll twist the meaning, and using the same nectarian pure message of the Vedas, they will produce something which is poisonous. They'll produce something which instead of helping us take us towards Krishna, they will take us away from Krishna. So it's a nice example we can remember by Vishnu Chakra Thakur. We'll continue on to next text, text 9. O best among men, the intelligence of human beings is bewildered by my illusory potency, and thus, according to their own activities and whims, they speak in innumerable ways about what is actually good for people. Text 10. Some say that people will be happy by performing pious religious activities. Others say, others say that happiness is attained through fame, sense gratification, truthfulness, self-control, peace, self-interest, political influence, opulence, renunciation, consumption, sacrifice, penance, charity, vows, regulated duties, or strict disciplinary regulation. Each process has its proponents. So Krishna is giving examples of different parts. Some say you'll get happiness by doing this ritual, some say you get happiness by sense gratification, some say you get happiness by truthfulness, self-control, charity, austerities, so on and so forth. We'll go to the next text, text 11. All the persons I have just mentioned obtain temporary fruits from their material work. Indeed, the meager and miserable situations they achieve bring future unhappiness and are based on ignorance. Even while enjoying the fruits of their work, such persons are filled with lamentation. So now Krishna is giving his opinion or his verdict about all these other parts. All these parts not in relation to bhakti. What's Krishna saying? That all these parts unrelated to bhakti, they just simply give temporary results. And secondly, indeed the meager and miserable situations they achieve bring future unhappiness. So although initially one might achieve a certain sense of happiness while engaging in all these other parts, at the end, in the future, one will be forced to go through unhappiness. And Krishna is saying that all these different parts, they're based on the principle of ignorance. Because what is original Swarupa? Original Swarupa is Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishna Nitya Das. And of all these other parts where one is going after sense gratification through karma or through jnana, one is speculating mentally. In all these other parts, one isn't focusing on his actual identity as Krishna's servant. So therefore Krishna is saying all of these other parts which I'm mentioning, they're all founded on the principle of ignorance or avidya. So if something is founded on the principle of avidya or ignorance, how can that give you actual happiness? And then finally Krishna is saying, even while enjoying the fruits of their work, such persons are filled with lamentation. So Krishna finally is concluding, not only do in the future they experience unhappiness, but even in the present sense, while they're enjoying the fruits in the present, they're also filled with lamentation. How so? Prabhupada, he explains that in this material world, Prabhupada, he gives the example of sweet rice mixed with sand. In this material world, whatever material happiness we're experiencing, it will give some particular happiness, but along with the happiness, it will also give us some distress. It won't be 100% enjoyment. Along with the happiness, there will always be something which is missing, something that will drive us mad. And Prabhupada, he gives the very nice example of sweet rice. When someone brings you a nice cup of sweet rice, then immediately our mind goes, oh, we start imagining in our mind, how nice that sweet rice will taste. Even before tasting, we start mentally analyzing, I'm going to eat it and I'm going to experience great pleasure. So in this way, this is how mentally people, they concoct in their mind, okay, if I get this new car, if I get this, if I get this house, if I get more money, I'll enjoy like this. In this way, people, they mentally concoct. And then finally, after working very, very hard, when they finally get that object and they try and enjoy that, then what happens? Someone picks up the sweet rice and starts eating. Initially, you can taste the sweetness of the sweet rice and it's very nice and you're feeling very happy. But after taking a few mouthfuls, you realize something is wrong with the sweet rice. What's wrong? Along with the sweet rice, someone has mixed in sand. So you're tasting the sweetness, the nectar of the sweet rice, but at the same time there's this yucky feeling of sand in your mouth. So there's this simultaneous little pleasure of the sweet rice, but along with the pleasure there's that disgust of sand in your mouth. So both are going on simultaneously in your mouth. So that's what Krishna is explaining, that even in the present tense, when someone is enjoying material happiness, he is not actually enjoying. He's getting little enjoyment, but along with the enjoyment, he's tasting the disgusting taste of the sand in the mouth, just like in the example of Prabhupada is giving. So in the same way, we can see the same thing, analyze the same thing in all situations. Just like initially when we see the sweet rice, in our mind we start concocting, oh, sweet rice, I'm going to dive deep, I'm going to enjoy so nicely, this is going to be so nice and nectar. In the same way, in our mind we start concocting, if I get this car, if I get this house, if I get this mature situation, this thing, I'll be happy. But when finally we get that thing after working so hard, when we start enjoying that thing, we don't actually enjoy it. We find there's something fault. We work very hard, we get a car or get a house, then we notice that, there's one particular problem with this car, there's one particular problem with this phone, or one particular problem with this house. So in this way, Krishna explains, the Shastras explain, that no material situation, no material object in this world is perfect. Along with giving you happiness, simultaneously they'll give you distress. So it's a very amazing example Prabhupada gives of sweet rice mixed with sand. Such an amazing example. If we just remember this example, we can save ourselves from so much trouble. So in this way, Krishna, he puts down all the other parts unrelated to bhakti. Now Krishna will glorify the process of pure devotional service. After putting aside all these other parts by saying all of these different things, they just give temporary results, they just give you suffering, lamentation, they don't give you real happiness. Now Krishna will talk and glorify the process of devotional service. Text 12. O learned Uddhava, those who fix their consciousness on me, giving up all material desires, share with me a happiness that cannot possibly be experienced by those engaged in sense gratification. So now Krishna is contrasting. Previous verse he's saying all these other guys doing all the other parts, they're just suffering, they're just unhappy, they're just lamenting. But in contrast, those who fix their consciousness on me, what happens to them? All those persons, they share equal happiness with me, or they share with me happiness that cannot be possibly experienced by those engaged in sense gratification. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He explains that devotees of the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord, they don't endeavor for their own happiness. They don't have a tinge of desire to experience any pleasure for themselves. Their whole mood and consciousness is how to give Krishna happiness, how to give Krishna pleasure. And he explains this especially in relationship with the gopis. So the gopis, the whole focus is just giving Krishna happiness, giving Krishna pleasure. They never think of their own happiness. But even though they never endeavor for their happiness, even though they never desire for their happiness, still Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that Krishna, he forces happiness upon the gopis, he forces happiness upon his devotees. How much happiness does Krishna force upon his devotees? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that the happiness that Krishna forces upon his devotees is 1,000,000 times greater than the happiness Krishna he himself experiences. That's why CC explains Krishna, he comes in the mood or the form of his devotee. Because devotees of the Lord, they experience in the service of Krishna, devotees, they experience happiness which is 1,000,000 times greater than the happiness Krishna himself is experiencing. And because Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, Krishna, he wants to experience that amazing happiness which his devotees are experiencing. So therefore Krishna, he descends down in the mood of his topmost devotee, Srimati Radharani, to experience that topmost bliss, which is 1,000,000 times greater than the happiness he himself is experiencing. Other example Prabhupada gives is that of the stomach or the root of a tree. If we just satisfy the stomach, then naturally all the other parts of the body will be satisfied. Or if you water the root of the tree, all the leaves and branches will be satisfied. So in the same way, if we just simply focus on giving Shri Shri Radha Gopinath pleasure, automatically we ourselves will be satisfied. We don't have to endeavor or make plans to be happy. We just focus on serving Krishna, we just focus on fulfilling Krishna's desires, and Krishna will force happiness upon us. One time, one of my god brothers, he was writing in his offering to my Guru Maharaj that he was remembering how his initial days, he came to my Guru Maharaj in one darshan, and he asked he introduced himself to my Guru Maharaj as a new bhakta, that Maharaj, I consider myself as a pleasure seeker. I'm always seeking newer and newer pleasure. I'm always seeking newer and newer happiness. So in this way he introduced himself to my Guru Maharaj. And my Guru Maharaj replied to him by saying, don't look for happiness, don't search for pleasure, don't search for happiness. Instead, look for opportunities to serve. If you look for opportunities to serve, happiness will be forced upon you. So again, my Guru Maharaj is repeating the same thing that's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The secret to happiness is, as the gopis exemplify, instead of us making plans to get our own happiness, instead of going through that direction, we go and make plans to serve Krishna. if we just simply look for opportunities to serve Krishna's devotees, then automatically happiness will be forced upon us. So therefore my Guru Maharaj was saying, don't look for happiness, just simply look for opportunities to serve. If you simply look for opportunities to serve, Krishna will force happiness upon you. So in this way, Chaitanya Charitamrita, it explains this very amazing secret of happiness. We'll go to text 13. One who does not desire anything within this world, who has achieved peace by controlling his senses, whose consciousness is equal in all conditions, and whose mind is completely satisfied in me, finds only happiness wherever he goes. There is a similar verse to this in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, in the conversation between Narad Muni and Maharaj Yudhishthira. So after the whole Leela of Lord Nrsimhadev, Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj, Maharaj Yudhishthira, he puts forward some questions regarding Varnashrama Dharma to Narad Muni. And Narad Muni, he'll answer those questions. In one verse, like this verse is saying that one who does not desire anything in this material world, which means one who is self-satisfied, he is experiencing pleasure in this inside himself, and therefore he is not seeking for happiness outside. And who has achieved peace by controlling his senses, and his consciousness is equal. For him, such a person whose mind is completely satisfied within, he finds happiness wherever he goes. So in a similar verse in 7th canto, Narad Muni, he gives a very amazing example. He says, just like a person, when he goes walking out on the streets, if he is wearing some nice, comfortable, suitable shoes, then even though that person, when he's walking on the street, even though there might be very rough gravel, or even though there might be some stones or rocks or some twigs or bindis or thorns, still he's unaffected by all of these different terrains. There might be some sharp stones or some mud or so on and so forth. But because he's wearing some nice comfortable shoes, some very good quality shoes, he's walking over all these stones and thorns, but he's unaffected. He doesn't experience even a single bit of unhappiness. So in the same way Narad Muni explains, just like a person wearing suitable shoes is unaffected by pebbles and stones that he is walking over, in the same way, a person or a soul who is self-satisfied, who is taking pleasure within, from his relationship with Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, someone who is self-satisfied, that person, no matter wherever he travels around the world, no matter wherever life takes him, no matter whichever situation life throws at him, he is always be happy, he will never be unhappy. So the same secret of happiness, Narad Muni he gives with the example of someone walking over different environments with some suitable shoes. So those shoes, they're compared to that consciousness of being self-satisfied, of just being satisfied with the bare necessary life, and just being satisfied or taking pleasure with one's relationship with Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So we just be satisfied with whatever service we've been given, with simple things like chanting Hare Krishna, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and not take the external so seriously. If we cultivate this quality of self-satisfaction, Krishna has explained, Narad Muni explains, no matter where we are in life, no matter whichever environment we go, whichever situation life throws at us, we'll always be happy. Because no matter what's happening externally, inside, what's happening inside, we're connected with our dearmost friend, our dearmost lover, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So we'll always be happy, no matter what happens externally. In the purport, Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur, he gives another example of a wealthy man. So just like a wealthy man, he travels to different countries and cities. But no matter whichever country or city a very rich man like a billionaire travels to, he experiences the same level of comfort, he experiences the same level of luxury. Because no matter whichever city he goes to, he books some nice fancy hotel. He goes to Sydney, he books a nice beautiful hotel by the Harbour Bridge, and he experiences great luxury and he experiences happiness. He goes to China, he books some nice fancy hotel in China. He goes to Paris, he books some nice fancy 5-star hotel next to the Eiffel Tower. He goes to America, again he books another nice fancy hotel. In this way, just Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains, no matter whichever city or town a rich man goes to, by the strength of his wealth, he is able to experience the same amount of comfort, he is able to experience the same amount of luxury. So in the same way, devotees, they have this great wealth of Krishna Bhakti within their hearts, therefore they are self-satisfied. So no matter whichever town, village, or whichever situation they go through in their life, inside they're always happy. Inside they're never unhappy, they're always peaceful and self-satisfied. They never undergo through any trouble in life. So that's another example Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur gives. So go to next verse, text 14. One who has fixed his consciousness on me desires neither the position or abode of Lord Brahma or Lord Indra, nor an empire on the earth, nor sovereignty in the lower planetary systems, nor the eightfold perfections of yoga, nor liberation from birth and death. Such a person desires me alone. So remember, the question of Uddhava was that of all of paths, which path is the topmost? And please explain to me which is the topmost path. So initially Krishna, he talked about these other different paths, saying these are created due to different desires and natures of different individual entities. And he explained that all these other paths, they don't actually give happiness, but they just give lamentation and suffering. And now he's explaining, on the other hand, one who takes to bhakti, he's experiencing the topmost happiness, and not even for a single moment a devotee is overcome by unhappiness. No matter where he is in life, he is always experiencing more and more bliss and happiness. And in this verse, text 14, Krishna is explaining that this happiness that my devotee experiences in the path of bhakti is so great that he rejects going to the position of Brahma, Indra, and he rejects the Astasiddhis, and he even rejects liberation. So this happiness is not ordinary. This happiness is so great that my devotees, they reject all of these different things. So in this way, Krishna is more and more emphasizing the superiority of bhakti over the other parts of self-realization. Text 15. My dear Uddhava, neither Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankara, the goddess of fortune, nor indeed my own self are as dear to me as you are. So this is a very famous verse again of Bhagavatam, which is quoted in different places, in CC also. So now this is an amazing verse. Krishna is saying, Uddhava, that you are so dear to me that I have more love for you than I have for Brahma, Shiva, Lord Sankarshan or Lord Balaram, and even the goddess of fortune. You're more dear to me than Brahma, Shiva, Sankarshan and goddess of fortune. So in this way the Acharyas explain that in this verse Krishna is highlighting or again emphasizing the superiority of bhakti. Bhakti is so great that anyone who takes the path of bhakti, anyone who becomes a devotee of the Lord, Krishna, he becomes so much indebted to that devotee, he becomes so much moved by that devotion of that particular conditioned soul, that Krishna considers that devotee to be even greater than Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even the goddess of fortune, and even Lord Sankarshan. So in this way we can see how Krishna is glorifying his devotees more and more, how Krishna is glorifying the path of bhakti. And in the purport, the devotees of Prabhupada, they quote Srila Madhva Acharya for the explaining this principle. I'll read this section from purport. Srila Madhva Acharya cites from Vedic literatures the example that a gentleman sometimes neglects his own interest and that of his children to give charity to a poor beggar. So in this verse Krishna is saying that beyond Brahma, Shiva, Lord Balaram, goddess of fortune, and indeed even my own self, I love you even more. So how so? Madhva Acharya, he gives the example, just like a man, along with him he'll have his wife, and along with him he'll have his children. But when he comes across a very poor beggar on the street, he gets so moved by emotion that he forgets his wife, he forgets his children, and he even forgets himself, and he goes to help that poor beggar. So in the same way, similarly, Madhva Acharya explains, the Lord gives preference to a helpless devotee who depends completely on his mercy. So if we want that special mercy of Krishna, we need to approach Krishna in that helpless mood of a poor beggar. So when you see us in that helpless mood, approaching him with great humility, like we've been discussing in the classes over the past few weeks, of Vidura, how he's approaching Maitra Rishi and devotees, they've been quoting Sanatana Goswami. When Sanatana Goswami is approaching the Lord, he's approaching with such humility. Nich Jati, Nich Sangi, Pratita Dhamma, Kuvasai Kupapadi, Gonainu Janama, Nich Jati, I am my association, my birth is low-born, Nich Sangi, my association is the lowest, Adama, I am the lowest of mankind, I am the most sinful, I wasted my whole life in the deep dark well of mature existence. So in this way he's approaching the Lord in a very helpless, poor, mood of a beggar. So in this way he's attracting more mercy, Sanatana Goswami. So that's what Srila Madhva Acharya is explaining. That devotees are able to attract so much mercy of the Lord because they put themselves in that very helpless mood. So therefore Krishna, he forgets himself, he forgets his consort, he forgets his own children, and instead he goes and he gives more mercy to his devotees. I'll continue reading the purport. The only way to obtain the Lord's mercy is through his causeless love, and the Lord is most lovingly inclined toward those devotees who are most dependent on him. So the more dependent we are on Krishna, the more helpless we are in serving Radha Gopinath, the more mercy we'll attract. Just as ordinary mothers and fathers worry more about their helpless children than those who are self-sufficient. So another example, a father and mother, they'll have many children. Some of the children, they'll be grown up. They'll be teenagers, or they'll be at university, or they'll be married, and they're self-sufficient. They can take care of themselves. On the other side, there'll be other children who are very young, and they can't take care of themselves. So naturally, the father and mother will give more attention and love to those children who are more helpless than those children who are self-sufficient. So in the same way, the Acharyas explained, Krishna, he gives more attention and mercy towards his pure devotees, more than even Brahma, Shiva and the goddess of fortune. Why? Because these devotees, they're so much dependent on his mercy, therefore Krishna, he gives them more attention. So if we also want that same attention and love from Krishna, we need to approach him in that helpless mood of dependency. Text 16, with the dust of my devotees' lotus feet, I desire to purify the material worlds which are situated within me. Thus I always follow the footsteps of my pure devotees who are free from all personal desire, wrapped in thought of my pastimes, peaceful, without any feelings of enmity, and of equal disposition everywhere. So, another amazing thing Krishna is saying. In the previous verse we heard Krishna is saying that I love you, I love devotees like you more than I love Brahma, Shiva, goddess of fortune, Balaram, and more than I love myself. In this verse, what's Krishna saying? In this verse, Krishna is saying that I follow in the footsteps of my devotees. And why do I follow in the footsteps of my devotees? Because I hanker for the dust of my devotees. So in this way, Krishna, is glorifying his devotees more and more to such an amazing extent. The whole universe is hankering just for a little dust of Krishna's lotus feet. And what's Krishna is doing? Krishna is running after his devotees, hoping to get some dust from his devotees' lotus feet. I'll read the purport, one section of the purport. So the second half. Without the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees, it is not possible to engage in pure devotional service, without which one cannot directly experience transcendental bliss. So without the dust of Krishna's devotees, one cannot take to devotional service, and one cannot experience that supreme transcendental bliss. So then Krishna, understanding this, what is Krishna's thinking? Lord Krishna thought, quote, I have established this strict rule that one can enjoy my transcendental bliss only through devotional service obtained from the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees. Since I also desire to experience my own bliss, I will observe the standard procedure and accept the dust of my devotees' feet. So Krishna is thinking in his mind that I have made this rule that if someone wants to experience the topmost bliss, they have to run after my devotees, get their dust, and only after getting their dust can they experience the topmost bliss by engaging in my devotional service. So Krishna is thinking, I also want to experience this bliss. Therefore, he's saying, since I also desire to experience my own bliss, I will observe the standard procedure and I will also accept the dust of my devotees' feet. And that's why Krishna, he comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As we were explaining before, the happiness that a devotee experiences is 1,000,000 times more than the happiness the Supreme Lord experiences. So Krishna, he wants to experience this happiness, so therefore he comes in the mood of his devotee as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in CC we'll see how Mahaprabhu, he practically, really speaking, he actually does this in real life. He actually runs after his devotees. And Mahaprabhu, as Nimai Pandit, he actually physically gets the dust of his devotees' lotus feet. For example, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, more details are given. How after Mahaprabhu, he gets initiated by Ishwar Puri and he comes back to Navadvip and now he's completely transformed. And he, after being completely transformed, initiated by Ishwar Puri, it's explained that Mahaprabhu, now he acts completely opposite. Previously, Mahaprabhu was acting as a very arrogant and proud scholar of Vedanta or of argument and logic, but now Mahaprabhu is he's completely the opposite. Now Mahaprabhu is supremely humble and is just running after devotees trying to serve them. And it's given that he used to go to different devotees and take their dust. Physically, Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Lord, will collect the dust of different devotees and glorify them, that previously I was so much overcome due to my pride and arrogance in studying the Shastra, in being so expert in logic and argument, but now I've understanding the essence of bhakti. And how has this happened? This has all happened due to your mercy. So in this way, Mahaprabhu, he glorifies his devotees in Navadvip by saying, only because you desired that I become a devotee, today I have become a devotee. Like we were discussing from Nectar Devotion, it's given that one can immediately be elevated to Bhava Bhakti by a special mercy of a devotee. And one particular way one can get the special mercy of a devotee is if a devotee desires good fortune for one. So one way is if one gets a glance of a devotee, if one sees a pure devotee, simply by that glance of a pure devotee, one can get immediately transformed, become a pure devotee. Another way is if a pure devotee desires well for us, thinking that I wish this soul is very sincere, I wish this person becomes a devotee. Then Krishna, to fulfill that devotee's desire, will make this ordinary conditioned soul immediately into a pure devotee. So in this way, Mahaprabhu, he was going to different devotees, falling at their feet, and Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Lord, was physically taking their dust, saying that finally today, after so many years, I am becoming a devotee. Why? Because in the past, you were praying for me. In the past, you were praying to the Lord that I become a devotee, and because of your prayers only, I am now your devotee. Then it's given that Mahaprabhu, he used to menially serve all of his devotees. Like the devotees, they would go take bath in the Ganges, and Mahaprabhu would wait and take their gamchas, and Mahaprabhu would personally help the different devotees squeeze their gamchas. So Mahaprabhu would do all these menial tasks, squeeze different devotees' gamchas, and some devotees, they'll be carrying groceries or something very heavy, and Mahaprabhu will go up to him and say, please allow me to help you, give me your groceries, I carry it for you, or allow me to carry this for you, I'm young and strong, let me do this service for you. So in this way, Mahaprabhu, after becoming initiated by Ishwar Prabhu, he exemplifies true humility of a devotee, and he goes and very menially serves his devotees, and physically, practically speaking, Mahaprabhu was going, taking the dust, touching the dust of all his devotees and taking their dust. We'll stop here. So in this way, Krishna is further and further exemplifying the supreme position of the path of bhakti. Bhakti is so great that one experiences happiness all times, places, and circumstances. He experiences topmost bliss. And not only that, one who is following the path of bhakti is more dear to me than Shiva, is more dear to me Brahma, Sankarshan, and Lakshmi. And not only that, one who's following the path of bhakti, he's so great that I myself run after them, trying to get their dust. We'll stop here. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.